I think we should save the best one for last.
Yeah,
and
I
that
think
way,
that's fair.
And that way you, the person we slightly just scorned, you don't click off the video because we know how you are. That's why we don't have faith in you to build the deck.
You don't stick around. You know what? However, you, the person who I did point out, you did a good job. You hit like and subscribe and click that bell.
Right.
The other person,
right.
I'll have faith in you once you subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. Which, if you
and I feel like we're really underestimating that person over there because they are actually signed up for the Patreon, and I have a lot of faith in people who do that too, for sure.
Good point. Good point. To figure this out. I figure as we're starting the podcast, we need to workshop an actual intro. Because here's the deal. Before, when it was just my
when you were riding solo,
when I was riding solo, I would just introduce it. Hi, I'm Callahan. Blah 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 blah. Introduce it. The thing is you're not a guest anymore. So me introducing you kind of feels like I'm the superior. I don't know that I like that vibe. You know? And so like what I want to figure out is like, how do we introduce ourselves?
And you've already hit record because you want to workship this live.
I want to workshop this live. This is the introduction to the episode of is Commander Masters the set that breaks CEDH?
It's not.
You and I not even introducing ourselves. We're just getting right into it. How the fuck do we introduce ourselves? Like how do we even do that conceptually?
So I could sort of take over the YouTube audience role where you introduce the topic and I sort of just go, no, it's not in the comments. But it's like sort of, but here already. So I sort of like cut the head off the Hydra. But then hopefully two more grow back. And by that, I mean, there's two people who are like, actually, yes, it is broken. And then we sort of create some like a narc gang war in our comments.
A narc gang war.
Yeah, no, it's harder to say, isn't it?
It is a lot harder to say than I thought that was going to be.
Or more realistically speaking, we could have a real intro.
We could have a real intro.
Yeah. So I kind of like hitting it like a early 2000s DJ, be like, hey, welcome to the Mind Sculptors podcast. You've got Stinky and Pete in the morning, kind of thing. Today we're talking about bitches, what I mean, like that kind of.
And you just have like all the little like the shock jock intros. Yeah.
I know people who can record like hentai sound effects, so we'll just have a bunch of those like in the background too.
So do you want to give that like a dry run?
Oh, we're really trying that one.
We have to give it a dry run. It's like, so. Welcome, everybody, to the Mind Sculptors.
Yeah, we're here to sculpt your fucking minds, dude.
Help you to get a winning mindset because you're a beta male.
Sponsored by Monster Energy. No!
Can you not call me out like that? I literally just went to the fucking gas station to pick up 4 monsters because it was out.
It's sadder because we're not actually sponsored by Monster Energy.
We're not actually sponsored by Monster, but I actually talk about Monster on the show in a reasonable amount.
Yeah. No, I tried to do that with actually Polar and White Claw on my own channel because I was like, hi, I drink your products way too much. Please give me money. And I was close with White Claw, I feel like, but then I sort of got lazy with it.
Well, you got to get on that. Listen, you're doing this full time, baby. You got to get on that grind. Listen,
I do have to get on that grind.
My brother and me could get Totino's to sponsor an episode.
That's true.
We can surely get some minor energy drink, some like B-list energy drink to sponsor an episode, right?
I was gonna say, like, I drink Celsius religiously, but I think they actually might have reached a point where they're too big now.
Yeah,
Like,
they might be too big.
Yeah.
I think they have gotten to the like middle-aged white woman crowd now.
Sure. I've actually,
there is also just like a full like 20 pack of Celsius in our fridge right now.
That's what I'm saying. I was hanging out with I guess this is public information now because I've tweeted about it and stuff. But when I was hanging out with fucking Post Malone and crew, like there was just a fridge full of Celsius, and I was like, oh, it's cool now. Oh shit.
Yeah. So in Louisville, I have to look up what it's called.
Yeah.
But Jack Harlow.
Yeah.
Is from
Louisville. He's got some
Louisville.
weird soda thing, right?
Yeah, he has.
Right before I left childcare, the kids were really into it.
Yeah, it's called Focus.
Okay.
PHOCUS. But
it like, doesn't. No, pause. I need to stop. It doesn't make you cool to replace an F with a PH. It doesn't. It's not cool. It's not exciting. It's stupid. It's stupid.
Ian, I'm going to send you a link to an image of what this can look like. Okay.
Oh Christ. Yeah.
Because you're not going to think it says Focus at first. So I'm sending you an image in Discord, and I need you to look at this.
It's Pooks.
It looks like Pocus to me.
It does look like it says Pocus.
I every time because we live in Louisville and he's from here, right? And he actually like fun fact, he lives in our neighborhood. But or at least his Louisville home is in our neighborhood. So like I've been told that like some of the bookstores that I go to frequently, he just kind of will be there randomly. But because he's from Louisville, every single grocery store in town has Pocus fucking everywhere.
I still think it looks like it's like POUHCS.
Yeah. It looks like you're supposed to read it like that. It's for our audio listeners. I'm sorry, you're just kind of screwed.
Okay, but on YouTube, and I'm going to hold you to this. You're going to put an image up of this can, right?
Sure. See, I'm going to try and edit this the day we record it so that it's just done.
Editor's note: they did in fact not edit this the day of. Good job, Callahan, you stupid piece of shit.
Instead of doing what I usually do, which is record it
Sunday night,
and then go play Crusader Kings for a week and then edit it the day before.
I hope you enjoyed playing Crusader Kings, you dumb fuck.
Right.
I'll tell you what, though. Monster Juice is where it's at. Pacific Punch Monster Juice. Not sponsored, but pick it up. Pick up a can.
Yeah.
$3.19 at your local gas station, 2 for $4. It's a great deal.
Honestly, I'm more of a fan of the classic Monster flavors. The classic
Monster is foul.
No, you're just wrong. That's okay.
It is wretched.
Blue Monster is actually the best drink ever.
I'm talking like just original, like
like OG green. There's
the
two cans. The OG green is kind of foul.
There's
green and blue, right? Like there was
the green one is foul. The blue one's okay.
I like the blue one a lot. Yeah. The blue one used to get me through a lot of bad nights.
So I used to drink. I think you might remember this. I used to drink like NOS.
Oh yeah,
like, constantly.
And
then
I remember when you converted too.
Yeah, I made this like shift last year, and it is like substantially healthier drinking this over NOS. And I was like, when we went to go see Taylor Swift, it was super late in the morning because we had a flat tire. So like on our way home, I was like, all right, I need something to like keep me awake in this torrential downpour on a spare tire so that I could just get home. And the only thing that this gas station had of the like energy drinks that I like was NOS. And so I was like, all right, I'll try it. And it had been almost a year since I have drank a NOS. And when it is it tasted like battery acid. It was
Yeah.
gross. I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, how did I drink this? Like,
Yeah, you used to do that shit every day. Think about that
holy
sometimes.
shit.
Yeah. No. I'm also like, there's definitely energy drinks I type now that I'm like, oh, I'm definitely old because I drink like the ones with like just sugar, and I'm like, I used to think this was fine. I drink it now, and I'm like, ugh, like
Yeah.
gross.
I drink I feel that way with like Pepsi, where I can't
Yeah.
drink Pepsi because it's like,
Mhm.
just feels like my mouth is coated in sugar
Yeah.
after.
I also do think COVID absolutely destroyed my taste buds. So that's like a part of it too. Like I already had a really bad sense of smell, but I think like just like anything that I used to enjoy flavor wise, because now like obviously I still can't eat like dairy or gluten anymore because of
Right.
COVID. It's seeming like.
Mhm.
So it also like just messed up just everything, just the whole system.
Good times. I will say
Mhm.
for the dairy is
Yeah.
if you a lactose-free milk, baby,
Oh yeah, yeah.
is
I mean,
it
I've
also
been hearing this
lasts
stuff.
forever too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
wild.
Mhm. Also, Philly is like really nice for this stuff. Like it's genuinely like the most accommodating place food wise I've ever lived.
This speaking of options, this set did not
Mhm,
really
mhm.
give us a whole lot uh as far as set review goes
Yes,
to
correct.
talk
It was
about.
mostly reprint set, right?
This was mostly reprint. And before we even get into the review, this is I kind of I said this on Twitter,
Yeah.
and I kind of want to elaborate on it a little more. Is this point of I wish it was entirely a reprint set. Like I do
Mm,
like some of the new cards that are out. I think they're cool. But I do think it took away from the master's feel of it to print new cards. What I wish they would have done is like for the commander decks is like reprinted the Atraxa deck but with like updated cards. You know what I mean? Like
hmm.
update those deck lists, go back to
Yeah,
some of
I
the
can see where
older
you're going with.
ones.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Just like
Um
give them a few more modern cards in there
yeah,
and like make them a little stronger,
put like
cleaner, and
arcane
stuff like that.
signets in them or something,
Yeah,
like
I
update the
mean, I
mana
think that would
base.
actually be a really cute idea moving forward. It's just like and especially if you're gonna charge like double the price, right? Like
Yeah.
make it just like a little bit better in every way, right?
Yeah. Whereas with like these cards, like I'm looking at some of the cards that are in our list here,
Oh,
and almost all of them are at minimum like $10, which
well,
is
yeah,
just I mean, granted that price will go down once people start buying the set.
yeah. It's
Uh
also tough because secondary market and all that. It's the set's also not out for 3 more days as of time of recording, right? So
yeah.
like that is the prices are shifted.
Yeah, the prices will change, but
Mhm.
it's still just like wild to me.
Agreed.
But we have 8 cards to talk about,
Mhm.
2 commanders.
Yep.
Um I think there are some interesting cards here. I'm actually at least one of them is going to see cEDH play for sure.
Mm.
Um, so let's start it off
Oh, I
here.
know which one. Okay. I was like, which one is definite? Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll start off talking about the commanders and then we'll work
Yeah.
through the rest of them. So
Love it.
here we'll start off here with the Planeswalker commander Commodore Guff.
Let's
Uh,
go.
it is a colorless blue, red, white Jeskai Planeswalker that comes in with 5 loyalty, can be your commander, and then has a static ability that says at the beginning of your end step, put a loyalty counter on another target planeswalker you control. Has a +1 ability that lets you create a 1/1 red wizard creature token
Mhm.
with tap, add red, spend this
Mhm.
mana only to cast planeswalker spells.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then -3, you draw X cards, and Commodore Guff deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control.
Mhm.
So this was one of the cards I didn't even have it on the list originally, and you DM
Mhm.
me and you're like, "Hey, throw this on there." So it is like what is it? Super Friends, Jeskai Super Friends, like gonna be a thing? Ian?
I was gonna mess with you and just be like, yeah, there's actually a 17-point chain veil combo where you no. So no, the reason I put this on there is it's actually a pretty decent polymorph commander. Which is why
Oh,
I thought about talking that today. Yeah, so it comes down, it makes you a body, right? So the 1/1 that can tap for planeswalker mana. Any sort of planeswalkers you want to add to the deck that just inherently give you a little value. Like I think like Teferi Master of Time is like one that's pretty easy to throw in here that gives you value. 3-mana Teferi is obviously one you can put in just for the silence effect, but doesn't really work with what your commander's trying to do. So I don't think there's many like actual planeswalkers that are going to go in the deck and like be super, super powerful. But I don't think it's like the worst thing if you know that there's one or two that are like, okay, if this survives the turn of the table, like, you know, I could play an Ensnaring Bridge in my deck or something stupid like that to like make sure that no one attacks ever, right? So, or you could play cards like Out of Time, which is really well positioned right now. And actually one of the best reasons the Teamer Polymorph deck that exists with Thrasios and Rograk right now, it doesn't get Out of Time, and like playing a creatureless deck is like one of the best ways to actually take advantage of that card. And you can also you could play Humility in this deck. You lose your main win con, but like there's definitely stuff you can do with that too. But
Humility's
back
too
to
cute. I'm just going to continue to say it. Humility's too cute.
I've seen some decent Shorokai lists. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, Guff it allows you to basically you get access to all the polymorph colors, right? Unlike a deck like Shorokai, like I was just mentioning, because you get red, which has a ton of the polymorph effects, including the instant speed ones, which are significantly more strong, like Chaos Mutation and Divergent Transformation. And with the access to all of these, you can flip over into something like a Hullbreaker Horror or a Tidespout Tyrant because Commodore Guff's minus ability is an infinite mana outlet. So what you can do is, because you only need one planeswalker, i.e. Guff, its -3 says, once again, you draw X cards and it deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control, right? So you would proceed to bounce Guff, then you bounce a Mana Rock, bounce a Guff, bounce a Mana Rock after you've generated infinite mana. And then you're able to ping, you're able to do some damage, but it does, once again, require you to draw. So it's actually more of a draw outlet in the command zone, as opposed to just a direct damage outlet, like something like Jessica. And with that being said, there's a little bit of nuance as to like how you want to do that part of the equation, right? But and then you can obviously, you have infinite mana, and then you can draw your whole deck. Usually you can assemble a win. Most pilots would usually assume they can fight a win con in that situation. But yeah, so that's the idea behind the deck. It's probably cute, but I like the idea that like once again it gets white, which the other probably best polymorph deck in the format does not have access to white, and a lot of the best board wipes are white. And actually top 16 of the cookout had Teamer Polymorph for like the first time in a while. That deck put up a result. So, it's a valid strategy. Once again, Thrasios is a lot more value in the command zone than Guff. I'm not gonna lie.
I think it's funny, the whole Thrasios conversation it has seen how it's evolved of people are like, oh, Thrasios just isn't that good. And it feels like they've kind of come back around to realizing, oh, Thrasios is really good because, like activating Thrasios is really strong. And it's like, well, this was that has and will always be true.
For sure.
I think Guff's kind of interesting. I think one of the interesting things I see with this is if I was going to build like a polymorph deck with this, I think one of the things I would probably include is like Tezzeret the Seeker, just simply because you then
you can
get
grab
access.
the artifact polymorph.
Yeah, you can do that. You can also like get access to like Icecrown Scepter dramatic reversal combos, which goes off with
don't really work with your commander.
I mean, if it's an infinite, I guess you have to have a way to bounce it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I guess that's fair. But I mean, that was what I immediately thought of, was that Tezzeret at least is synergizes well with the commander, gets you some
and the one ring
and the one ring. Yeah, one ring. I'm gonna test Tezzeret in Tivit because I'm like,
it's just getting the one ring with Tezzeret's fine. Like it's like when old birthing pod decks used to play Tezzeret just to tutor birthing pod. Like,
it's wild.
One ring's good. Like it's really good. I saw it all weekend. The card's busted.
Yeah, I got to play the one ring a few times over the weekend, and was extraordinarily impressed with it. And then I also watched like Pro Tour coverage, and I was just like,
I mean,
it's just made like Tron like ridiculous cool.
It's crazier in 1v1 formats, I think, just because like you leveraging so much individual card draw against your opponents is like, I don't think it's comparable to anything else.
Well, it also just gives like this is totally off topic, but I was
Just protection for
watching
the
the
turn, yeah.
finals match from Pro Tour Barcelona, and traditionally, like, Scam is one of the hardest matchups for Tron
Yep.
because you just get your hand eviscerated. Well, if you
Yeah,
get
if
a
you're
one
protecting from
ring,
them.
it's not a
Yeah.
big deal because you just play it and then you basically get 2 turns
Mhm.
where you just don't have to worry about it,
Yep,
um,
absolutely.
which is huge. So
Yep.
the One Ring, the real deal.
Yep.
And Commodore Guff, maybe good polymorph commander? Question mark.
Maybe. Yeah.
Uh,
We'll see, but, obviously, like, benefits of, like, you can play Torpor Orb in this deck, you can play Out of Time, you can play Vanquish the Horde, like, get all these, very strong white effects and stacks effects, and maybe flip into a Hullbreaker Core, see what happens.
yeah. Well, let's look at the other commander here
Yeah.
that we were going to be talking about. We're only talking about 2 of them. And the next one is Anikthea, Hand of Erebos. It costs 2 colorless, a white, black, and green. Is a legendary enchantment creature with the creature type Demigod. Has menace. Says other enchantment creatures you control have menace. And whenever Anikthea enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black zombie creature in addition to its other types. So, like, right away, there's like some really cool stuff that this can do with,
Yeah.
like, just enchantments in general. Like, it can do some really
Mhm.
interesting things with enchant.
Yeah.
Um Overall, what are your kind of thoughts on this commander? Because when I saw it, I was like, I mean, it feels like something's there. I don't know what,
Yeah.
but
I thought you had the answer to that question. So, to me, I mean, obviously, like, Entomb plus this card is a 2-card combo with whatever your best enchantment is, right?
right.
I guess the question is, like, what is your best enchantment?
That's a very good question. Now, I wonder, like, you can get like, I guess you could get Necropotence. Out of Time is not great with this.
Yeah.
Um,
You get Humility. Try figuring that one out, judges.
Layers. Um, that actually kind of sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds awful. Because Humility itself is one.
yeah, I mean, this was a card where I looked at and was like, it feels like there's probably something there. I feel like Cobblepot, I'm sure, has a brew for this.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what are your thoughts on it overall?
I'm literally right now on Scryfall looking up the highest value enchantments on EDH rec.
Mhm.
Um, does it say non-creature enchantment or
It says
no?
non-aura enchantment.
Oh, yeah, I mean, so, like, you could reanimate a Nyx Blue Mansion pretty early on, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Or Zendikar Resurgent.
Zendikar Resurgence hot.
Yeah. So I think, like, there's definitely, like, a value sort of graveyard deck you can make with it. And once again, Entomb and Unmarked Grave, because Unmarked Grave is actually really solid because a lot of, like, the best enchantments are not legendary, right?
Right.
'Cause it's not a card type that's easy to copy, right? So in that sense, there's definitely things you can do with it. Enchantress has been an archetype that has struggled historically in cEDH. Sithis is a deck that people have played. It has done okay at times, but I think it's made like a top 16 or two. But it's an archetype that sort of like has contradictions in the fact that it feeds a ton out of Dockside, but it can't play Rule of Laws. But you can play like obviously anti-artifact stuff, but you still want to have a certain amount of speed with the deck, and it plays like curio lines. Like this is its own thing, right?
Right.
Um, and I think this one has potential. I would assume someone is able to do some pretty nutsy stuff with it, and I think there's definitely a way to build it. I think it definitely can. The fact that it completely relies on the graveyard is a little
I'm kind
sad.
of personally laughing right now about the
Yeah.
idea of putting a Parallel Lives into the graveyard with this and
Uh-huh.
then getting a Parallel Lives creature, and then every enchantment that you make, you get 2
Is
of
he gets
them.
2 of them. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
kind of just laughing at that right now.
Yeah.
Um, could could put a Sandworm Convergence in there. Um, I don't know why,
So,
but you could.
yeah, I mean, you definitely could do that. Let's see. I'm looking at all of them with like mana value 5 or higher. Yeah, next bloom pops up again. Zendikar Resurgent.
There's
Blissful
also
Fury.
Ethereal Absolution is another one you could put in
What's
there
that one?
potentially.
Oh, you can play Lurking Predators. That'd be fun.
That's actually hot. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Endless Ranks of the Dead works with us pretty well.
Yep.
Um,
Archetype of Endurance isn't bad either.
oh yeah. I forgot that the archetypes are
Enchantment creatures.
enchantment creatures.
Yeah, so there's like cute stuff you can do with this for sure. I don't know if it's like the next big
Yeah.
thing, but it's can be the next thing.
I'm sure there's like a Walking Ballista Heliod like thing that it could do.
Yeah, I think there's definitely potential
Because I
for
mean
that
it's in
for
those
sure.
colors already. Heliod's there, so it just gives you like a good way of like always
Yeah.
having a Heliod.
Mm-hmm.
Uh I don't know. It was one of those cards where I saw it and I was like, the effect is powerful. So it
Yeah.
feels like it
Mhm.
definitely has
Yeah.
something that it can
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
I don't know what that is, but I feel like there is definitely something there.
I feel like
Um,
this would be a really interesting like Oath of Druids deck,
oh, that's
right?
actually an interesting idea. Oath of Druids with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
Feel
you
like
only play like
enchantment.
big enchantment creatures, right? And then or
Yeah,
like ooh.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you could do that. I don't know. It's interesting. Leave us a comment in
Yeah, yeah.
YouTube or somewhere if you have any ideas on Anikthea.
You
It
break it. You right there in the audience. Break this card.
no, not you,
Yeah, not
you,
you. You.
you. We're talking to you, not you, you. Um,
Although, hey, look, person that Callahan just pushed aside. If you want to try and break it, that's fine, right? We have a little more faith in the other person that we pointed at, but like, you're great.
you're still good.
You're
You're
still
still
great.
fine. Well, let's move out of the commanders here to some of the more maybe I almost said intoxicating, but I think enticing is the word I'm actually looking for.
I think
Uh,
we should save the best one for last.
yeah,
And
I
that
think that's
way,
fair.
you, the person we slightly just scorned, you don't click off the video because we know how you are. That's why we don't have faith in you to build the deck.
You don't stick around. Uh, you know what? However, you, the person who I did point
You
at,
did have yeah.
you did a good job. You hit like and subscribe and clicked
Mm,
that bell.
right.
The other person,
Right.
I'll have faith in you once you
Yeah.
subscribe, like, and
Mhm.
turn on
Yeah.
notifications. Which, if
Oh,
you
and I
haven't
feel like
done
we're really
that,
underestimating that person over there because they are actually signed up for the Patreon, and I have a lot of faith people who do that too, for sure.
good point. Good point. Um, go sign up to the Patreon. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, do all those things. Over half of our viewers and listeners aren't subscribed, which is fucking wild. So please
Mhm.
subscribe.
Yeah,
Uh
do it.
it's free. It costs you
Free.
nothing.
It's free. Not the
Uh
Patreon part. That costs you something.
let's look at a sorcery here that is real cute. It's called Rise of the Eldrazi.
But Callahan, that's a set.
It's also a card, just like Urza's Saga. Uh,
Man.
oh no, they got me. And March of the Machine.
Yeah.
So Rise of the Eldrazi is a 12 mana sorcery that costs 9 colorless and then 3 specifically colorless mana.
9 generic, 3 colorless.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. The spell can't be countered.
Mhm.
Destroy target permanent. Target player draws 4 cards. Take an extra turn after this one. And then you exile Rise of the Eldrazi. So I don't know if you've seen the way to break this card, Ian, but it's kind of hilarious.
Okay.
So back in what was it? The unset.
Mhm.
I forget what is
Oh,
Unfinity.
no. Is this the bull guy?
Well, you'll just have to see. I'm going to send you the picture of the card.
The fucking bull guy. God damn it. This is spleen all over again.
So there's this card from Infinity called Magar of the Magic Strings. And it's a colorless, a black, and a red. Legendary Minotaur performer. And it has this activated ability for a colorless black and a red. Note the name of target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard and put it onto the battlefield face down. It's a 3/3 creature with whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may create a copy of the card with the noted name. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. And if this creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. So
if there's an open player, you can just do this infinitely.
Correct. It's
Okay.
called Infinite Turns. And Infinite destroy everybody's permanence.
Yeah, that is the thing for sure.
Yeah.
At some point, you do actually have to start targeting other people with the draw 4, which I also find very funny.
Yeah, that is funny. But so outside of that meme, Ian, Rise of the Eldrazi, do you think this has a home anywhere potentially, or?
So, I mean, okay, so like this is now I've already seen Magar talked about like this with like Peer into the Abyss. But like I don't know, after a certain amount of stupid cards, there becomes a time when you're like, God damn it, the stupid bull. Right? Like, I think we're getting close, to be honest. I'm gonna just go update my TCG player cart real quick. But the other place that I really, really like this card is actually Narset. It's just it's pretty nutso in that deck.
Really good hit
It's
in Narset.
one of the few turn spells that can't be countered. Like you just want a high redundancy of these effects, right? So it's really solid. It gets you more cards too, because like Narset does have a habit of whiffing. From the experience I have with the list, it's just like you're trying to be consistent, right? And it's a tough deck to do that.
Right.
So that being said, I think the card will see play. It's obviously we're talking about some of the more fringe decks of the format. Not that we weren't all convinced that Magar of the Hidden Strings was a tier 1 archetype.
No,
but,
it's the best. Listen, if people were playing it, it would be number 1 on my power rankings every single month.
Yeah, just because it's just so strong.
Yeah,
right?
it's unbeatable. I don't know why people aren't playing it.
Because they can't see the strings. If they could see the strings,
they can't see the strings. But there are no strings on me. But
yes, thank you. We all needed the Pinocchio reference.
Yeah, it was inevitable. Yeah, I mean, I think this card is interesting. I like the idea that in Narset, especially because it's just like a really, really strong hit off of that. The other one, the other place I was kind of like, this seems like it could potentially be pretty strong in is in Yuriko, where it's a good hit, but also like it's not. I don't know that it's unreasonable to cast this.
They don't have so it's like an Elrod deck, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they don't have a lot of ways to, or at least traditionally, in the lists that have been doing well lately, they tend to be a little harder on these effects, So
who knows? It's a powerful card.
Yeah.
It seems pretty interesting. Build those Magar lists, guys. Magar is I think I'm gonna spec on that card because I think that's gonna be the new cEDH thing taking over the meta.
Magar of the Hidden Strings. Yep,
Magar of the Hidden Strings.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Spec on that card, guys. Next card on our list is an instant. It is Guff. Guff rewrites history. Costs 2 colorless and a 2 generic and a red. I guess I should clarify that. And it says for each player, choose target non-enchantment, non-land permanent that player controls. Those permanent owners shuffle them into their libraries. Each player who controlled one of those permanents exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card, and then put the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. Each player may cast the non-land card they exiled without paying its mana cost. So, Ian, there's a couple things here that I think are interesting. One is this is kind of like Chaos Warp on steroids in a way.
Ish, yeah.
Yeah. But also because I'm the madman that I am, is stuff like uh Teferi, Time Raveler, Drannith
Mhm.
Magistrate,
Yep, yep.
Lavinia, Boromir, all of that stuff makes this
Yeah.
just a 3 mana
Destroy 3 things.
destroy 3 things and exile 3 cards. Uh,
Yeah, I will say it does hit your stuff too.
it does.
Yeah, it is. So it is one thing is it doesn't say for each player choose up to, but you do have to choose uh one of those permanents no matter what.
Right.
Right. So if you only have one creature that you like, that is a big downside for this card, I would
Right.
argue. Um but I agree in like stacks of your builds. I don't hate the idea of this just like 3 for wanting some stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, and we were talking about this last week where we were talking about
Mhm.
when with the whole thing with like Tivit where you do like if you don't want to use like your abrupt decay on the mana vault because sure you stop
Right.
the Tivit deck, but what do you do about the other people?
It's 1 for wanting. Yeah. Yeah.
Is this does feel like it's a card where we're starting to get some amount of answers that
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
do let control players be
Yeah.
better at playing
I hate
control.
that this says non-enchantment though. Like
I agree.
enchantments are a really important card type right now between Rhystic, Mystic,
Hmm.
Dress Down, Underworld Breach, like Underworld Breach. And it not hitting that is really awkward. I'm like
Yeah.
pretty disappointed by that line of text if I'm being honest. I think I would like this card a lot more if it could hit enchantments. And I know it's like there's,
Yeah.
things like Mana Crypt and Mana Vaults, but like also like you could hit a Mana Crypt and flip it into an Ad Naus, you know what I mean? So like that part like bums me out a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
This
it is
is a
also important to note.
polymorph technically too.
No,
Wait, no.
because they don't have to
Oh,
share a card
non-land
with them.
card. Never mind. They don't
Right.
have
So
to
that's
share.
what makes this card a lot worse. If it was a polymorph, I think it would be way more interesting for
Yeah.
conversations. But I like it's still cool. It definitely allows you to take a leg up on the board state. And once in a deck like Narset, actually, the odds of you like hitting a mana rock and flipping into like an extra turn effect are actually pretty hot. So if your deck has a lot of big hits, this doesn't suck as much.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting as we're going through this, as I'm starting to get the impression of, oh, did Narset just kind of get like some good tools this
Mhm.
set?
Mhm. Yeah. It
Uh,
is the Narset.
God damn it. I love it. Yeah, so this is one of those cards where
Mhm.
I do think in like Art and Crom, I feel like it's
Mhm.
probably playable.
Yeah.
Um just from the perspective of getting to uh really break parity on the like Lavinia effects that we're already playing
Yeah,
and
yeah.
those sorts of things. Like you really get to do that and you're playing a control
Mhm.
deck. So being able to 3v like 3 for 1 everything
Mhm.
feels really
Yeah.
good.
No,
Um
I'm with you.
so it'll be interesting. Uh next card on our list, this is another card that Ian specifically asked for, is
Mhm.
Gatewatch Beacon. It is 2
Yeah.
generic mana and a white artifact that enters the battlefield with 3 loyalty counters on it. You can tap it to add white mana, and it also says whenever a planeswalker enters the battlefield under your control, if Gatewatch Beacon has loyalty counters on it, you may move a loyalty counter from Gatewatch Beacon onto that planeswalker. So
Yep.
with this card, where are you seeing this? What is
Mhm.
your specific kind of like ideas with this?
Yeah. So this is specifically a card that, thanks to Scoop Phase, I saw this on Twitter. They were talking about this card. It turns Dihada into a card that can double minus.
Oh wow.
And that deck already has a lot of explosive potential with the minus ability.
Hmm.
So being able to minus and then go to your next turn and then minus again while also gaining a mana rock on your turn is actually pretty solid. Just because the whole point of that deck is to fill the yard and then Yogswill or Breach with the flicker combos and stuff like
Right.
that. And the ability to not only double minus, but then double minus and either put Dihada in the graveyard or kill it and then have it be able to be played again, gets another loyalty counter and can double again.
Right.
Um, is like actually pretty solid. So it's a weird card for the deck, but it's actually a pretty decent upgrade for what the list is already kind of trying to do. It's a little like there are like cards in the list that are like the mid-range Dihada pieces, like Mayhem Devil and stuff like that, and this
Right.
definitely subscribes to that, right? Like it is one of
Yeah.
the mid-range pieces, but it provides like a lot of necessary just like cleanness to what the deck is trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Because the biggest like misconception with Dihada, what I'm hearing from a lot of Dihada pilots is like they want you to kill their Dihada. They want to be able to cast it again from the command zone. They want it to be able to either put in the graveyard and stuff like that. So
Right.
the fact that this can then double minus and kill itself is like actually really
So what I'm
huge.
hearing is you shouldn't attack the Dihada.
You should attack the Dihana in a way that removes loyalty counters so it can't minus, but doesn't put it in the graveyard or the command zone. Yeah.
It's
So
interesting.
if you have the option of like, if for example, I know a lot of the things people will do like play Dihada, minus it, and then they'll uptick to the +2. If you hit it below the minus ability again, that's really huge.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, that is good to know. I like the more I hear and the more I look at these Dihada lists, the more I'm
Mhm.
like, this deck seems like a deck that I would like very much enjoy. As far as
It's
like
kind of
turbo
it's
decks
like
goes.
really unique. It's crazy. Like it's fun. I enjoyed it a decent amount. I lent it to somebody to play, and I was watching them play it, and I was like, oh, okay, I kind of like the play patterns, and it was the only. So I played the cookout last weekend, didn't qualify, but there was a redemption event the next day that was just like 3 rounds of playing, and the only deck I lost to was the Ihata list by Zane. He was piloting it quite well. So
Huh. Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Cool deck, cool card.
Mhm.
Interesting to see how some of these more fringe cards find homes in some of
Yeah,
these
yeah.
decks.
Especially
Um,
in a deck that's like more mainstream nowadays, right?
yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Next card on our list is another artifact. It is Darksteel Monolith, and it is 8 generic mana. It's indestructible, and once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a colorless spell that you cast from your hand. And so with this, I've seen a few people talking about stuff specifically with um what's it called? With Duretti, with using this as a way to get like Duretti things rolling. What are your thoughts on this? Is like this a viable piece for Duretti, or do you think it's
Mm.
like eh?
I honestly haven't thought about Duretti in a really long time, if I'm being honest.
That's super
It's a
fair.
It's a deck I enjoy quite a lot in concept, but never in execution. It's also a deck that I feel like I often go like, "Well, I should spend some time with that list because I feel like I could like make something that I'd be comfortable with, and then I never do. To me, this strikes me a little odd, just because the way I've seen Duretti played in the past, it's not like a cards in hand issue, right? It's more like a what can I do with the pieces that I have
Right,
kind of thing, right? And you know, pitching the things in the graveyard to then bring them back and stuff like that. So to me, this strikes as a bit odd, if I'm being
right.
honest. But I kind of like it. Definitely, it's the indestructible thing helps a ton, right? I've seen that with the One Ring. Like clearly, the cards like the indestructible on artifacts are a real deal. Like I've sat
Yeah,
there with a Besage in my hand, going "Brr," right.
right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like I don't think the cards in hand issue is something they're struggling with a lot, right? So to me, that's like the biggest issue I see with the card. Um,
What is a
yeah.
deck that you do think would benefit from this?
Um, I mean, Duretti's up there, right?
Right.
Arkham, maybe, depending on the version
Oh
of
yeah,
Arkham. Like, if there's ever a
Arkham would be
situation where
interesting.
you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, where you're stuck with a bunch of cards in hand, that's definitely a way to get through it. I think about that deck more often than I think most people do, just because there was a guy at my local game store who used to play it and do really well with it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if um some of the decks that want to do Curse Totem sort of lock, or not Curse Totem,
Yeah.
Possessed Portal or Portal to Phyrexia
Mhm.
sort of locks
Yeah, yeah.
are kind of interested in this. Um
Yeah.
I don't know how it feels like red decks in particular would be interested in this, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I guess my question with it is because I have seen a handful of people, not enough, like a lot. Also, the set is just like there were only like 70 new cards, and like maybe
Yeah, yeah.
five of them are really worth talking about.
Mhm.
Um, but like I've seen some amount of people talking about it as like
Mhm.
a way to play Portal to Phyrexia or Possessed Portal or some of
Mhm.
those things. And I guess my thought has been, well, I guess if you're cheating this out, then can't you just cheat
Right.
out the portal? But um,
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's a cool card.
Mhm.
Let
Right.
us know in the comments what you think about it. I think that the ability to cheat stuff into play and specifically get the cast,
Mhm.
like if there's like a cast trigger from it that you get, is very strong.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what would be interested in that card.
Mhm.
Next card on
Yeah.
our list is an enchantment. And this is one that I actually think is somewhat interesting. And it's Descendants Fury. It's 3
Yeah.
generic and a red. Enchantment: whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice one of them. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature. Put that card on the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. So before I even, go any further, obligatory is this a Nagila card joke here. Um,
Yes, of
uh,
course. We figured it out. We've cracked it.
we've cracked the code. This is what it's been missing. Uh,
Yeah.
but overall, like there are some things like I specifically felt like the Malcolm and Breaches deck really gets a huge advantage out of this because it just gets you straight into your Glinthorn.
Mhm. It's a little awkward, right?
Yeah,
Because it flips into a glint horn, but glint horn won't be attacking.
right. It is a little awkward with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's there's what are some other things you could flip into this that I'm thinking of?
I I feel like there's a version of Winota that could play this, not the current iteration, but like it'd
Right,
be kind of interesting to like flip some goblins into bigger goblins or humans into humans.
right,
Like you can always trade up like a Mother of Runes into like a Rick.
right.
But the other things I'm thinking about this card, I think Goblin is actually, pardon me. I think goblins are pretty potent with this.
Yeah.
I think there's we get every once in a while just like a couple pieces, and I'm like, is Muxus finally a thing? Maybe no. Okay, well we'll keep trying, right? Like,
Does Muxus finally have
but
what it takes? Uh,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, I saw this and I specifically wanted to talk about it because I was like, well,
Mm,
there's obviously some amount of decks that,
mhm,
if you can flip into a particular
right.
creature, or if you have a creature type that your commander is that shares with one of yours in the deck,
Mhm,
that this can be either just a really good generic source of value or also
right.
like a potential like redundant piece for a
Mhm,
polymorph maybe sort of deck.
mhm,
uh I don't know, it's always hard for me to like look at decks because it's like every time I try to like I come up with an idea, I'm always just like, oh no, but that stops it. And I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I definitely like the idea of like hitting someone with a Goblin Lackey, getting a Goblin Lackey trigger, putting in a big old creature, and then like flipping into like I don't know a crazy goblin. Like
Right.
stuff like that. I think is like there's something there, right? I Yeah, I just feel like man, now I'm in a mental mission to like what's the most viable way to play goblins right now? It's probably Muxus, but like
Muxus, I'm sure there's like two colored goblins, right? Like
right.
so
That's what
that
I'm
you
saying. Like
can
deafening
get.
silence in a goblins deck seems really hot, but like
Let me look at some typo commanders here. Let me look at some
yeah,
typo goblin commanders. So we've got,
yeah.
obviously we've got I guess Soroman's not a bad one, actually.
What?
The Grixis one, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, amass Orcs X, where X is that spell's mana value, and goblins and orcs you control have ward 2. Muxus, obviously. Ugluk of the White Hand is an Orc Soldier. Actually, what's actually kind of hilarious is this actually might be a semi-decent card in Zada.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Zada's a weird one. I keep thinking it works and then it doesn't.
Yeah, Zada's one of those decks where like
Yeah.
it just like plays so many cards that just don't do anything.
Yeah.
But it's fun when it goes off. Also, Goro Goro and Satoro is a Grixis Goblin Human. So you get like
Mhm.
2 different card types that you could hit off of that.
I think that deck is a thing that has been underexplored.
Goro Goro.
Yeah, Satoru and Goro. Yeah.
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 Whenever more creatures enters the battlefield this turn, deals combat damage to a player. Create. Yeah, I mean, that seems. I think the issue is, right, is that like
Mhm.
everybody just sees Grixis and then just plays the same Grixis
Yeah.
pile.
Playing the
And
same Grixis pile we've been playing for 30 fucking years. Yeah, I get it.
yeah.
For sure. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like just playing like turn 1 Loyal Apprentice, turn 2 Satoru Goro, hit your opponents, make a 5/5, and then next turn just like hit them again with a new one that comes in, make a 5/5, and then if you ever do any extra combat, extra turn stuff, like that's all, interesting at the very least.
And then you
And
can
then the
play like
demons come
just like Grixis control behind that.
in.
Because it turns out Grixis is a good control color
Yeah.
pairing
Yeah.
also. Fun fact.
Fun fact.
It's not
Yeah, I mean, just like
go Burr.
yeah, also the fact that it has the Tymna policy too, which is kind of interesting, right? Like it's like if you hit 3 players, that's 3 5/5s you've made in one combat.
God, that's so hot.
Mhm. It gets out of
Hmm.
hand kind of fast, huh?
Hmm.
Do you want to make a tempo deck?
Maybe we should brew this and do a brewer's choice episode on this.
Mm.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Mm.
But anyway, Descendants Fury, interesting card, can hit a lot of different
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
You know, maybe try it in some of your decks where you're a little bit one of the things I think is interesting that I don't think a lot of people
Mhm.
think about is like
Yep.
human is like one of the most like uh the most played card creature type in CEDH. And
Hmm.
so I don't think enough people like really think about how many good humans you could just flip into.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's it's also really funny because you could use this to I'm getting way too memey with this, but you could use
Mhm.
this to sacrifice an arena rector to flip into a thing and then also be getting, because you're sacrificing it, you can also get a Vivian, and so you can just go combo off on top of everything. It's beautiful. It's perfect. No notes.
Yeah, definitely no notes at all.
No notes. Last card on the list is our only creature, and I think we talked about this a little bit on the cast last week. Is
Mhm.
Skittering Cicada. It costs 3 generic mana. It's an insect creature that has flash, and you may cast colorless spells as though they had flash. And whenever you
Yep.
cast a colorless spell until end of turn, Skittering Cicada gains trample and gets +1 or +X+X, where X is that spell's mana value, which is actually kind of really good. Um,
Yeah.
that's sort of like bananas that is.
Mhm.
It just keeps getting bigger if you just have
Mhm.
stuff that you can cast.
Yep.
So obviously, because and this is where I'm going to be a little grumpy bear. And you got to see this set a whole like what month before I did. Um,
These cards I only got like a week ahead of time.
okay,
Yeah.
so you got to see
Yeah.
them a week before I
Yeah. Yeah.
did. Because only one half of us is an MTG
Yes, that's right.
ambassador. So what are your thoughts on this card? Obviously, we've been talking about like Flash as an archetype on this show for
Yep.
about a month. and this
Mhm.
kind of
Yep.
keeps adding like it feels like
Yeah.
as soon as we brought it up, like I just kept seeing more Flash stuff enter
Yep. Yep.
into circulation.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like, I kinda when so I was the first one in this house to open up these commander decks, and I opened it up, and I was like, "Hmm, that's another Shimmer Mirror. That's crazy." Like, okay. Uh, yeah, it's a very strong effect, right? I think we have yet to find the reason to best utilize these. I think the Heliod Ballista list is using them to great effect
Yeah.
right now, but, the fact that we now have 3 mana cards that can make colorless artifacts have flash, is pretty huge.
Yep. And then
And
we
we have
have
variations within
Gandalf on
that,
top
right?
of that, which is
Yeah, we have Wrath Capuchin on top of that as well. Like,
yeah.
all of these effects that are just flashing in these artifacts or colorless spells or something like that. Because Liberator hits artifacts and colorless, Shimmermere just hits artifacts, and Cicada just hits colorless. But they all, like, if you have a win con that is a colorless artifact, turns out you now have 5 separate ways to give those flash, and 3 of those cost the same 3 generic mana. So that is consistency beyond all belief, and
Yeah.
that is something very worth taking a look at.
So is
I
like
have been
Shimmer
yeah.
Zur maybe back on the menu? Like is that I know
I
Drake
mean, with Born
Sasser's been
Upon the
talking
Wind,
about
yeah,
Zur.
yeah,
I mean, what is Zur more of a deck now than maybe it was
yeah.
before?
Yeah, I mean, once again, Born Upon the Wind just came out in Lord of the Rings as well, right? And
Yeah.
I know Drake, I was talking to him this weekend, and he had mentioned something about Zur being, like, a real thing. Um, I don't think it's wrong by any means. I think it's something that's definitely good. I just feel like Flash is so good, right?
Mhm.
And to relegate it to the end step is exceptionally okay, right?
Right.
I feel like we can do better than that. I feel like there are things that are probably a lot more busted that we can do that are not just flashing in a cicada so that you can Zur combo on the end step, which is an extremely telegraphed thing to do, right? Like, I
Right.
think going for a win con at instant speed is really the piece that you're missing,
Mhm.
right? And even things like flashing in a one ring, right? Like, stuff like that is like, oop, blocked
Mhm.
your Najila attack for the whole turn, and then I'm gonna draw and then untap and draw again. You know what I mean? Like, all that stuff
One
is
Ring's
like,
so good.
yeah, the one ring's really good. But all of that stuff I think is where we start to get to some really interesting topics and conversations and points of debate. So
Yeah. It's interesting. Oh, now, one thing that I do want to ask you,
mhm,
because
mhm.
this is something I like a briefly mentioned, is so like in a deck like Arden Crom, do
Yeah.
you think these flash effects in that deck are worth playing?
Or what are you flashing in apart from equipment, which you need sorcery speed anyways, right?
Hmm?
I said you need to equip at sorcery speed anyways, right? So, like, to me, that's kind of like the hamstring there, right? It's like
Right.
you yeah, you can, like, flash in like a GTA at end step and then untap and equip it, but, like, you also had to cast a 3 mana flash enabler to do that, right?
Right. That's why I've always liked Sigarda's Aid so much, is because it
Mhm.
does do both,
Yeah,
lets you cash things at flash and then
and
also
attach,
kind of
yeah,
have
yeah.
like the combat tricks on top of it.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, that's kind of why also I forget what the name of the card is whenever an enchantment or whenever equipment enters the battlefield, you may attach it to target
The Forge Anew card, right? Or no?
the what? Oh,
Isn't that
Forge
Forge
Anew.
Anew?
Yeah, Forge Anew.
Yeah,
Why I
yeah.
really like Forge Anew too, because like
Hammer of
it,
Nazan does the same thing, I think, right?
yeah. So just like some of those cards like that, I'm
Yeah.
definitely revisiting a lot of Arden stuff
Mhm. Yeah.
after taking some time off to play Tivit,
Yeah, yeah.
because there's just a
'Cause
lot
Tivit.
of what'd you say?
I said 'cause Tivit.
Yeah, I mean Tivit's still probably just going to be my main deck, but
Mhm.
it's need to put some work into my boys.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
but so before we go, I do want to say this.
Mhm.
So there were
Mhm.
a couple of people in our comment section last week who were asking us specifically on our comments about Atraxa, why we
Yes.
were saying it was hard to build, or people are
Mhm.
building it incorrectly.
Yes.
And I'll let you answer it the way you want to answer it. I will say
Mhm.
I have now built 3 different variations of it that are all like either like all the different ways people have built it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I built like my own version of it. And after playtesting it for the last like week, in 2 weeks, I want you to know that this deck has broken me. Um, trying to figure out how to build this correctly is
Mm-hmm.
actually like
A
maybe
nightmare.
the
Yeah.
biggest puzzle because it's like I can tell you something's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I
Mm-hmm.
play the deck, I'm like, this deck feels clunky. It doesn't
Yep.
feel like it is
Yep.
moving very quickly. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like it feels like if somebody just mana drains your Atraxa or counters your Atraxa when you cast it, you're just screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And th- hilariously in Tivit, I've never felt like that is an issue.
Yeah.
Um, but in Atraxa, it is always felt like it's an issue. And
Mm-hmm.
so for you, what do you see
Mm.
as the like barriers? Like, what is
Yeah.
the issue that people are having with this stuff?
So, I mean, the big one is people think it's Tivit, which is not.
Right.
And 6 mana versus 7 mana might not sound like a lot, but it's actually insane. Like the difference between those is insane. The fact that people are like building the 99 of Atraxa as if you're just only supposed to have a turbo out of Atraxa
Yeah.
is a lot. Then I've seen people play it like it's supposed to be an ad nauseum deck with Atraxa as backup, which has problematic play patterns to its own because once again you don't have red, right? Which is a
Right.
huge color for playing Atraxa. I've seen people who are playing Mox Amber in their Atraxas specifically just for Displacer Kittens,
But
and
also
it's like
aren't playing Lotus Petal, which I think is
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah, and it's like, what, why?
Yeah.
And like, it's just stuff like that. It's just craziness where it's like, I think I've just seen like, it just play patterns because people are like, okay, I'm going to focus on turboing out Atraxa, but or people who will like commit to an artifact plan because they're playing Nas, but not fully commit to an artifact plan and still try and play dorks at the same time.
Yep.
And kind of like forgetting every lesson we've ever learned in building Tivit, which was like you build a mid-range deck that has 4 color good stuff cards, and then sometimes you have this over-the-top late game engine
Right.
that actually just wins you the game.
Yep.
Or you mulligan for your Smothering Tithe and like hope that that gets you there too, right? And it's like I genuinely feel like people are missing the lessons that we've been learning with Tivit, and
Yep.
also not recognize the fact that Atraxa does not have the same win cons that Tivit does, and we have to work according to those as well.
Right.
I think a lot of people keep trying to build it like a green deck, which I think you're supposed to build it like an Esper deck that has some green in it. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just like little
I
things like
tried
that.
putting dorks in it, and I was just like completely
Mm-mm.
unenthused with the dorks.
Yep.
Um, what the cards that did stand out to me from green that I
Mm-hmm.
really liked, obviously Worldly Tutor,
Mm-hmm.
cards like what's the green and white Eladomri's Call,
Mm-hmm.
Court of
Mm-hmm.
Calling Finale, like obviously like the
Yep.
tutors you get from green.
Yep.
Also a card that I've been seeing just inexplicably missing from these decks is Veil of Summer. And I'm just like, why are we
Mm.
not playing Veil of Summer? This is like one of the best cards in green. Like
Yeah. I mean, I don't ever play that card anymore, but I know a lot of people do. So
I just it's a deck that's very hard to crack the code on. I feel like because
yeah.
it's kind of it reminds me a little bit. I've talked to you about this before, but like you know how
Mm-hmm.
Arden Thrasios feels like it should be a thing, but then you sit down and you try to
Yeah.
build it, and it's like, oh, this is pulling me in like 2 different directions. And I
Yeah.
think the issue is that green is a very bad splash color.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because green really wants to be your
The
main
main color.
color,
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's not a good support color.
Yeah. Agreed. Vehemently agreed.
And so I think that's really what the issue ends up being.
Yeah.
But it,
Also, like people keep asking about like Gaia's Cradle and Atraxa, and I keep going like every time I've seen a Gaia's Cradle and Atraxa, it's actively bad.
yep,
Like, yeah, I mean, knowing stuff like that is like a little trap. Like it's another thing where you're like, yes, you're right. Green is not a good sport color. So like, why try to make this like very Esper heavy deck a green deck?
yeah. Yeah, I that for the people in the comments that were asking me to elaborate that, and for the people on Twitter asking me to
Hmm.
elaborate that, engage
Yeah.
with my content and that's how you'll get your answer. But
free engagement.
What were you gonna say?
I said free engagement.
Yeah, free engagement. With that being said, Ian, where are you going to be here in the next few weeks? How can people find you? All that good stuff.
Well, I'm about to take off for Gen Con in nearly 24 hours, and I'll be there doing all the Gen Con stuff. And by the time this episode airs, Gen Con will be over. So I'm not going to tell you to come find me there. But you can check my Twitter to see if I had the spoons to tweet anything out about being there. Gen Con was awesome last year. It was my first time going, and I'm very excited to go back. Big shout out to Mono White Guy, Charles, fellow Sculptybois, who brought me last year, and because I had to bail on last minute plans, and was just like, hey, do you want to come to this thing that's a super big investment? And I was like, yeah, sure, might as well. So Gen Con is so much fun, though. One of my favorite conventions I've ever been to. And it's going to be a ton of great stuff. I'm going to be there with international superstar Louis Stardust and several other people in the community. And
you're only 90 minutes away from me, so I feel like we should probably meet up. But
yeah, you should drive into Gen Con.
Yeah. But so also, make sure go check out ComedIan MTG on YouTube and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Get your coaching.
Yeah, so feel free to check me out on youtube.com/ComedIan MTG. You can check me at Twitter at Comedian_MTG. You can find me on any of those social medias, Twitter, Discord, YouTube, all those things. And we do cEDH coaching, which you can go to my email at gmail.com, comedianmtg@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter, Discord, any of those places to DM me about those things. I have a new type of coaching coming up pretty soon, which is going to involve like playing games, breaking down the games afterwards, and then having a regular coaching session associated with that. So keep your ears out for that, because I'm really excited to do that. It's been a thing a couple people requested, and I was like, okay, well, let's find a way to actually like make this happen. And I'll have details for that in a video soon. So,
yeah. Well, it looks like, by the way, the what is it? The r/MTG or r/cEDH is back, by the way.
Oh, I heard, that they did only disappear for but a moment.
Yeah. But before we leave, deck that punishes opponents for drawing cards, playtesting cards. I've been playing Magic for 10 years, but have only recently started looking into cEDH. Call me a bit of a bastard, but I've always had a love for cards that aren't exactly stacks pieces, but punish opponents for drawing or playing too many cards. Examples of cards I like are Rhystic Stud, Smothering Tide, and the recent Orcish Bowmasters. You like that card? Are there any good commanders that provide an effect like this, or play a strategy that incentivizes you to run most or all of those cards? The only cEDH decks I've played are Mono White Stacks, Ballista Combo, and Blood Pod. Any help is appreciated. With that, I'm Callahan.
Yeah. And I'm Ian.
We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.
That I'm trying to keep, yeah. All these memories bittersweet, yeah. Gotta move, can't stay here no more. 여기 계속 있다가 나만 손해가 돼. 'Cause we can't keep making these rain clouds stay overhead. Don't wanna keep this going. Can't fix what's already broken. 생각을 돌이켜봐도